This week on Christian World News, tensions rising in Ukraine as the standoff between the government and protesters continues. The church stands for peace. Plus, the Middle Eastern Muslims who oppose Islamic extremism are friendly with the West and tolerate Christians. Meet the Kurds of Syria and Iraq. And in America, football may be just the second biggest religion, but for these Super Bowl athletes, faith comes first. Ukraine's church stands in the gap for peace. Hello, everyone. I'm Wendy Griffith. For weeks, Ukraine has teetered on the brink of meltdown. Christians there are praying around the clock for a peaceful resolution between the government and protesters. And they're also spreading the gospel in the midst of the chaos. George Thomas has that story from Kiev.
Wearing vests that say "Pray for Ukraine," Oleg Makdich and his friend have walked these streets around Independence Square, the epicenter of the political crisis, numerous times.
There's a mixture of hope and fear. People aren't sure about the future of our country.
CBN News went along as they delivered hot tea to men guarding numerous checkpoints around the square. They meet with pro- and anti-government demonstrators, including the police.
The church has to play a role in this crisis. We have to be salt and light.
I'm standing in a place called No Man's Land. It's in the heart of downtown Kiev. Hundreds of Ukrainian soldiers standing ready at guard, suited up and ready to do battle. On this side, you have dozens of burned out buses, hundreds of tires and barricades that have been set up by the opposition forces. Today, more than 2 months after Ukraine started this crisis, the nation remains at a standstill as the political folks try to come up with some kind of a resolution. Pastor Oleg has another solution. It's a spiritual one, and it's centered around prayer. Oleg is a youth pastor at one of Kiev's large evangelical churches. He erected this prayer tent in the heart of the protest zone more than 2 months ago, when his countrymen took to the streets demanding changes in the government.
Our main message is that God is the only answer, not politics, not violence. We have to rely on Him to see us through this crisis.
Since November, tens of thousands of anti-government protesters have flooded the capital city, demanding the president's resignation. Zhenya Venediktova, a college student and volunteer at the prayer tent, says the political uncertainty has left many disillusioned. She spends her time on the streets handing out copies of the New Testament and Gospel of John.
It's minus 23 degrees and cold out here, but the inconvenience is a small price to pay to share the gospel with people searching.
There's an army of Christian volunteers working 24 hours a day, praying, handing out free tea and food. Marina Kirinchenko is a mother of 2 from Kiev.
Protesters have been on the streets in freezing conditions for months. So when they come for a cup of tea, I encourage them, saying, "God bless you. We are praying for you and our country. Don't give up."
Pastor Oleg says hundreds of Ukrainians have stopped by the tent, and many have given their lives to Jesus Christ. Andrea Tostokori was among those who came for prayer.
I'm praying for God to bring righteous leaders to our government, people who can lead our country forward.
I asked Pastor Oleg how long he plans to stay out on the streets of Kiev. He says as long as it takes to bring peace to our country. George Thomas, CBN News, Kiev, Ukraine.
Great report, George. I hope you're staying warm over there, where we'd like to hear your views on how the church is responding to this situation in Ukraine. Do you admire their efforts? Should they be doing more? And how are you praying for them? You can post your responses on our CWN Facebook page. We look forward to getting those. Well, massive protests in Thailand are growing in advance of an upcoming election there. Tired of political corruption, demonstrators have been on the streets for months now, and depending on the outcome, they could be there much longer. Asia correspondent Lucille Toulousan reports.
Anti-government protests began last fall, closing businesses and hurting tourism in Thailand's capital city of Bangkok.
It's a festive mood here in Bangkok. Tens of thousands of people joined this march, and their goal is to block every main road here in Bangkok. And these people are saying that they're going to do this until they see Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra step down from office.
A failed amnesty bill triggered the rallies. It would have allowed the Prime Minister's older brother to return to Thailand without facing imprisonment. He left the country in 2006 after corruption charges forced him from office. Part of the proposed bill would have also returned $1.2 billion in seized assets to him. To appease the protesters, the Prime Minister called for a special election, but that stirred up even more anger.
These people say we are not going to vote because we don't believe in this kind of election. Democrat Party had already boycotted, so Democrat Party did not send even a single candidate.
And what about the nation's small Christian community? Where does it stand? Church leader Pastor Bunlat Boyen says many church members are on opposite sides. He's calling for unity.
The Christian people, you are the people of the land, the country. You have to take it very serious that you are one who's supposed to be responsible, have full responsibility to your country.
Protesters want an election boycott, but claim they will not stop people from voting. As a precaution, the Thai government has deployed 10,000 police throughout Bangkok to secure polling places. Whatever the outcome, thousands of Thais say they are determined to continue their fight to reform Thailand. Lucille Talusan, CBN News, Bangkok.
Thanks, Lucille. A Malaysian church was attacked with firebombs this week. Authorities say 2 men on motorcycles threw Molotov cocktails into the compound of the Assumption Church in Penang. No one was injured. Officials believe it's connected to a long-running dispute over the use of the word Allah by non-Muslims. Malaysian Christians use the word Allah to refer to the God of the Bible. Well, using bombs and heavy guns, Islamic militants killed at least 99 people in an attack on a Christian village in northeast Nigeria. Villagers say the attackers stormed a Roman Catholic church during Sunday morning service, spraying the congregation with bullets and setting off bombs. The terrorists killed dozens inside the church. They also burned down hundreds of homes. The militant Boko Haram group has not taken credit for the attack, but it's been waging a war against the government in the north, seeking to establish an Islamic state there. Up next, they live throughout the Middle East, but they don't have an official country. But in the territories they do control, Christians are welcome and Muslim radicals are not.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. 8 years ago, my husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
Inside every child is a hero, a leader, a friend to others, someone who helps out, who does the right thing, who dreams of what they can be, but they still need our help.
What should I do? What should I say? How should I feel?
That's where Superbook comes in. It provides moral and spiritual truths through situations children can relate to, teaching God's Word to the children you love. Join the Superbook DVD Club and receive Superbook's newest episodes as they're available, plus 2 copies to share with others, all for your gift of only $25. Get Superbook today and watch the miracles happen.
Welcome back to Christian World News. Syrian Christian leaders came to the U.S. Capitol this week asking America to help preserve Christianity in their war-torn nation. Hundreds of thousands of Syrian Christians have already been driven from their homes by Islamic rebels, and the churches and monasteries in their communities have been destroyed. Christian leaders fear without help from the outside, the Syrian church may disappear. But there is one group on the inside friendly to both America and Syrian Christians that offers hope. Gary Lane explains.
Syrian rebels opened fire on a government army tank protecting an ancient Christian site in the city of Sednaya. The House of Cherubim Church and Convent are located here, as is this giant Jesus statue. Locals say it's larger than the one in Rio de Janeiro. Christians usually rely on the Syrian army to protect their holy sites, but not this time. They took up arms to defend the area from Islamists bent on destroying the church and the statue. The Christians reportedly killed dozens of foreign jihadi fighters during a 7-hour battle. More and more Muslim rebels are attacking Syria's Christians. Last September, they assaulted the ancient Christian city of Malula. Islamist fighters with the al-Nusra group rampaged through Malula, killing several Catholics in the process. The Syrian army eventually retook the city, but the rebels invaded again 2 months later and reportedly kidnapped 12 nuns. The ongoing targeting of Syria's Christian community has threatened its very existence. Thousands have fled. Elliot Abrams was Deputy National Security Advisor for President George W. Bush. He says he can't fault the Christians for leaving.
If you were, I think, a Christian father in Syria looking at your children and their future, I think you'd want them to get out, and not just now for safety, but for the future too. I think you'd be saying, go to Europe, go to America.
But not all Christians can leave the country or take up arms to protect themselves. Who will protect them? There is one group willing to risk their lives to protect Syria's Christians, the country's Kurdish population. Tina Ramirez heads up a nonprofit religious freedom organization called Hardwired.
My experience of the Kurds in Syria was positive, and for a long time they were defending Christians that were being persecuted there.
Last year, the Kurds declared autonomy over the northeastern part of their country. It's known as Syria Kurdistan. Because the Kurds control that territory, the Christians living in cities like Qamishli are better protected.
It's becoming even more dangerous now, obviously, as the war continues, but in the beginning they were in, the ones that lived in the Kurdish areas had greater safety than living in other parts of Syria.
The Kurdish militias have won many battles against jihadis bent on controlling the region. Bilal is a former soldier, now a refugee camp leader in northern Iraq.
We resist Arabization, to not be controlled by Arabs, to defend our regions. That's why they are attacking us, but still we fight against them. We fought Al-Qaeda for the past 13-14 years with success. We have killed many Islamists and their leaders in Syria Kurdistan.
The same thing happened in Iraq. Iraqi Kurds stood with America, opposing Saddam Hussein and foreign jihadists in the Iraq War. And today, they have their own autonomous region. Iraqi Christians who fled persecution in cities like Baghdad and Mosul found a safe haven in the area of northern Iraq called Kurdistan.
They're pro-American. Their economy is terrific. They have something of a free market economy. People who go to Kurdistan will tell you, you think you're in Europe. It's wonderful.
Eventually, the Syrian war will come to an end. And like Iraq, the country may end up divided into zones of influence, including a permanent, autonomous Syrian Kurdistan. A balkanization of the country.
It is a balkanization of the country. I don't think it'll be a de jure legal separation with different countries being set up, but the zones are there, just as in Iraq.
Should the U.S. provide more support for the Syrian Kurds?
I hope that our intelligence services are in touch with them, and I think we should be willing to help those groups.
Who stood with America in the Iraq War? If America wants to apply democracy in the Middle East, if America is looking for long-term relationship in the Middle East, if America is looking for nations that will stand with them, it is the Kurds.
A secular Muslim force in the Middle East. one that opposes Islamic extremism, is friendly to Americans, and is tolerant of Christians. Gary Lane, CBN News, Erbil, Iraq.
Up next, Super Bowl players speak out about their #1 priority. Stay tuned for the Super Bowl coverage you won't see anywhere else.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids, do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes and Google Play now.
CBNnews.com. News you want, when you want, 24/7. Stay current with up-to-the-minute stories.
Ephraim Graham, CBN News, New York.
I don't have to wait for my news anymore. CBNnews.com at your fingertips all day long.
I only watch the stories I want to see.
I find the story, I click on it, and boom, I'm there.
Embassy in Washington, Eric Stackelbeck, CBN News.
The source for your news, CBNnews.com.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. 8 years ago, my husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
In America, the Super Bowl almost seems like a religious event. Millions will gather in front of their television sets to watch the Denver Broncos and the Seattle Seahawks battle for the championship. But for many of the players, winning a championship isn't the greatest goal in their life. Sports reporter Sean Brown talked with players on both teams who have their sights set on a much higher prize.
Hello and welcome to Times Square here in New York City for CBN's coverage of Super Bowl 48, where the Denver Broncos and the Seattle Seahawks will battle it out to try and stake their claim to the Vince Lombardi Trophy. Winning the Super Bowl for the Seahawks would mean their first championship in franchise history. For the Broncos, it would make their 3rd Super Bowl championship. You know, for a lot of the players on both teams, playing in a Super Bowl is a dream they've had since they were kids. In fact, for many of them, playing would define the very fabric of who they are. But for a few of them, their identity can't be found on the football field because there's a lot more to them than just playing football.
The Denver Broncos are highly favored to win in Sunday's matchup between the NFL's 2 #1 seeds. Jacob Tamme and Britton Colquhoun say, yes, they're hungry for a championship, but their happiness doesn't depend solely on winning.
Winning in football is really important to me. It's very important, but it does not define me as a man, and really ultimately I don't think it defines anyone. I mean, it's something that, you know, back from my days in high school, I mean, my high school coach taught us God, family, football, you know, and you got to keep it in that order. I think at the end of the day, you got to realize that it is a game and that God is authoring a bigger plan, and that's certainly a humbling feeling and keeps you grounded.
You know, it will be awesome to win the Super Bowl, but yet all these guys that have won the Super Bowl are still trying to win the Super Bowl. But that's just like the same with, you know, money's not going to make you happy. All these things that people strive for happiness, that didn't give you happiness. I mean, you're going to be happy on that stage, hoisting that trophy. You're going to go to bed at night, and then it's just you and God, you know. And so that's why, you know, faith and then you can add in family and things like that are what really fills you up and really, you know, gives you purpose and just gives you true joy, not just, you know, meantime happiness.
This is Steven Johnson's 2nd season in the NFL, and he says he's blessed to be where he is because earlier in his career he was told he would never play football again.
I hurt my knee. I blew my knee out in prep school, and I had plenty of people tell me I couldn't play football anymore. I was never the fastest. I was never the strongest. But I tell you what, the Lord took David, and you know, he conquered Goliath and did all that. And he just told me that, look, if you have a dream, go chase it. If you believe in me, I will be the super to your natural, you know, and I'm just honored to be able to continue moving forward with this team, hopefully for as long as I can, and just continue to serve the Lord.
Seahawks quarterback Russell Wilson has been criticized as an athlete for most of his life, mainly because of his size. But in the last 2 seasons, his numbers have made him a giant among men. He's the first quarterback in the Super Bowl era to post a 100-plus passer rating in each of his first 2 seasons. And he says while the stats are great, he couldn't have done any of it without the Lord.
You know, I had a lot of critics that tell me, oh, he's too short. And that was the only thing they could really say in terms of my game. And I wasn't going to believe it. I wasn't going to allow that to stop me from doing what God had put me on this earth for. In terms of my faith and how it's played a major role, it's been everything to me, to be honest with you. You know, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for that. And I give him all the glory. It's a tremendous honor just to be able to play the game of football. You know, and at the end of the day, football doesn't define me. You know, I believe that my faith is the #1 thing in my life, and then you know, family and then playing football.
Clint Gresham and Chris Maragos both recognize that the spoils of being professional athletes are only here for a season, and say that it's much more rewarding to invest in a relationship with the Lord that lasts forever.
I think that the second that we start to put our identity in anything other than Jesus, that's a slippery slope. And because one day football will be gone, and one day people will not know who I am or care to interview me. And so if I put my value in the fact that somebody wants to talk to me about football, man, when it's all done, your life's gonna not be that great.
My faith is everything to me. You know, I was just saying earlier that Jesus saves. Jesus saves, and it's my true desire for all of you to come to know his love. And to know that you're loved, to know that you're here with purpose, that you're here for a reason.
Free safety Chris Maragos has had a remarkable journey to get here. And he says he's learned that there's a void that only the Lord can fill, and that during times of weakness, that's when he shows up strong.
I've chased the things of this world, man. Before I gave my life to who Jesus was, I chased the money, I chased the drugs. I was doing drugs, selling drugs. My faith in Jesus through those times where everything was up and down, he continued to stay the same. And when your hope and your trust is on the firm foundation and who Jesus is, nothing can shake you. And there were moments where it was very difficult. There were moments when it was tough, but those trials produced perseverance in me. It produced character. It produced what you're seeing today.
Guys, amazing Super Bowl champions and so humble. Well, remember, you can find more great stories about the church around the world on our website, cwnews.org. We'll be right back.
Bye. Sure, life is busy, but I found a way to make a huge difference in people's lives. I guess you could say I'm changing the world right here from home. I bring medical supplies and doctors to people in need, and dig wells so that villagers can have clean and safe water to drink. I make it possible to preach the gospel in over 100 countries, including right here in America. And when disaster strikes, I'm there, providing food, thank you, and emergency supplies to give people hope again. Every day, CBN and I are making the world a better place. Here you go. My life is hectic, so I joined CBN through Pledge Express. My bank does all the work, and I know that my gift is being used where it's needed most. So become a CBN partner and join Pledge Express, because you can do a world of good right from where you are. Hi, good morning. Are you ready to get started?
The Bible says that God speaks in the visions of the night. The question for us today is, does God still speak in our dreams? Can God use our dreams to warn us, instruct us, inspire us, call us to pray, and build our faith?
In Gordon Robertson's newest DVD teaching, Visions of the Night, you'll discover how God used dreams throughout the Bible, how to know if a dream is from God, what to do when God speaks to you in dreams, and how to understand the plans God has for you.
Dreams can tell us what God wants us to do. You can dream of the good works God has created for you and find the satisfaction in life that only He can provide.
Get CBN's newest DVD teaching, Visions of the Night. It's our gift to you when you join the 700 Club. Available now.
And finally this week, from Poland to the United Nations and Israel, millions around the globe marked International Holocaust Remembrance Day. Ceremonies commemorated the deaths of 6 million Jews in what has been called history's greatest crime. Here's Chris Mitchell from Jerusalem.
The world remembered the Holocaust, but for survivors, the memories never fade.
There is not one day when we don't think about the events hidden in our minds. There is not one day. It always returns. Dreams return. We still hear in our dreams dogs barking, those German commands.
In Auschwitz, more than 50 Knesset members joined Holocaust survivors and world leaders to mark the liberation of the worst of the Nazi death camps. They shared memories of the place where Nazis murdered more than 1 million Jews, where life expectancy of those arriving was sometimes measured in minutes.
Dogs were barking, and there was a terrible smell. We didn't know what the smell was. We could only see the chimneys with flames a couple of meters high. We didn't know that it was the crematorium.
At the UN, filmmaker Steven Spielberg shared the hope of Holocaust survivors.
Survivors and witnesses often say that their dearest hope, the hope that helped keep them alive, was to be heard and to be believed and to be understood.
Spielberg made Schindler's List. The movie told the story of Oskar Schindler, who saved thousands of Jews during the Holocaust, like Rena Finder.
Oskar Schindler has proven, like a shining star, that there is always something somebody can do.
On International Holocaust Remembrance Day, over and over around the world, whether at Auschwitz, the UN, or here in Jerusalem at Yad Vashem, Israel's National Holocaust Museum, the refrain was the same: never again.
When we say that phrase, never again, it shouldn't just be something that we say without thinking. It should mean that we are taking an active stance, that we don't want something like that to happen ever again.
It's important to come here and to give testimony that we were prisoners. It should be a lesson. Such events shouldn't happen again.
Theirs were journeys into the Holocaust. They cannot emerge from it, and neither can the world until there are no more genocides, until the unthinkable becomes impossible.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Never again. Chris, great story. Well, thanks so much for watching this week. Until next week, from all of us here at Christian World News, goodbye and God bless you.